When Joseph Walker found Edgar Allan Poe on October 3, 1849, nothing about his condition made sense. Wrong clothes, wrong location, wrong symptoms. Unless you understood what had been done to him. Let's examine the physical evidence. What Joseph Walker actually saw when he found Edgar Allan Poe. The location? Ryan's Fourth Ward Polls, a tavern, known locally as Gunner's Hall, on Richmond Street in Baltimore's roughest ward. Why is this significant? Because October 3, 1849 was Election Day. This wasn't just any tavern. It was a polling place, a voting location. And Gunner's Hall specifically was known for something else, cooping. Everyone in Baltimore knew it. The Fourth Ward gang used the back rooms of Gunner's Hall to hold their cooping victims. The cellar was where they kept men locked up between voting rounds. If you were found outside Gunner's Hall on Election Day, wearing wrong clothes, delirious, everyone knew what had happened to you. Joseph Walker knew. Dr. Moran knew. The police knew. But no one investigated. The clothes? September 27th. Poe leaves Richmond wearing a fine black wool suit. Tailored. Expensive. Worth $40, nearly 2 months' wages. White linen shirt, black silk cravat, polished leather shoes, malacca cane with silver handle. Multiple witnesses confirm this. They describe his outfit in detail because Poe was always well-dressed, always particular about his appearance. October 3rd. Joseph Walker finds Poe wearing a cheap palm leaf hat, the kind sold to dock workers and day laborers for a few cents. Ragged trousers, brown, dirty, torn at the knees, several sizes too large. Held up with rope, not a belt. A stained cotton shirt, missing buttons, patches on the elbows, smelled of sweat and alcohol. A thin coat that didn't match the pants. Different color, different fabric. Didn't fit properly. Shoes that weren't his. One larger than the other. No laces. Barely staying on his feet. No cravat. No vest. No fine suit. No cane. Walker later testified, "I recognized his face immediately, but I didn't recognize a single item of clothing he was wearing. Nothing belonged to him." Where did Poe's expensive suit go? Cooping gangs stripped victims of valuables. A $40 suit could be sold for $20 to $30. Easy money, but they couldn't send victims to vote naked. So they replaced good clothes with charity bin rags. Mismatched pieces, whatever was available. And they had to change the outfits multiple times throughout Election Day. Different disguises for different polling places. The clothes Poe was wearing weren't just wrong. They were evidence of exactly what had been done to him. The physical condition? Dr. Joseph Moran examined Poe shortly after Walker found him. Moran's notes describe, patient is semi-conscious, pupils dilated, skin pale and clammy, severe tremors in hands and limbs, pulse rapid and irregular, temperature elevated. Patient is disoriented and unable to respond to questions. These symptoms are consistent with opiate poisoning, specifically laudanum overdose, severe dehydration from days without adequate water, physical trauma, bruising consistent with being beaten or restrained, alcohol poisoning, though Moran noted the patient didn't smell as strongly of alcohol as his condition would suggest. In other words, Poe had been drugged severely for an extended period, probably with laudanum mixed with alcohol. He'd been deprived of food and clean water for days. He showed signs of physical abuse, and he was in the exact condition you'd expect a cooping victim to be in after 5 days of captivity, forced drugging and repeated beatings. The delirium? Moran wrote, patient appears to be hallucinating, calls out for someone named Reynolds, seems terrified. When lucid enough to speak, cannot explain where he has been or what happened to him. This isn't normal alcohol-related delirium. This is trauma. Poe's mind had been shattered by whatever he'd experienced during those 5 missing days. The drugs kept him compliant during the cooping, but they also destroyed his ability to form coherent memories. By the time Walker found him, Poe couldn't remember where he'd been, couldn't remember what had been done to him, couldn't explain how he'd gotten there. All he could do was scream for Reynolds. The ignored evidence. Here's what makes this strange but true. Everyone saw the evidence. Walker, Moran, the hospital staff, the police, Poe's family. Everyone recognized the signs of cooping, but no one investigated. No one asked, where are his real clothes? No one asked, why was he at a polling place on election day? No one asked, what happened during those 5 missing days? They just filed it as congestion of the brain and moved on. Why didn't anyone investigate? Because investigating meant asking questions about Baltimore's cooping operations. And cooping was run by the most powerful men in the city. War bosses, police captains, judges, politicians. Investigating Poe's death would expose the entire system. It would reveal that political gangs were kidnapping citizens, drugging them, beating them, forcing them to commit voter fraud. And sometimes those victims died. If Edgar Allan Poe, famous writer, nationally recognized author, could be cooped and killed, then anyone could be. The system depended on silence, on looking the other way, on pretending cooping didn't happen. Joseph Walker knew. He wrote years later, everyone in Baltimore recognized what had happened to Poe, but no one dared say it out loud. The men who did this controlled the city. If you spoke up, you'd be next. Dr. Moran knew. But he changed his story 3 times, each version contradicting the last, each version avoiding the obvious conclusion. The police knew, but they filed no report, conducted no investigation, asked no questions. And Baltimore's political machine made sure it stayed that way. Strange but true, Edgar Allan Poe was found dying outside a known cooping location on Election Day, wearing disguise clothes used for voter fraud, showing symptoms of drugging and beating. And no one investigated, because everyone knew, and everyone was too afraid to say it. Tomorrow, we reveal exactly what happened during those 5 missing days. We go into detail about the other theories of Poe's untimely death, other than cooping.